So to start us off today, I want you to just try and visualize the actual shape of a traditional career.
Right, the shape of it.
Yeah, because for the better part of the last century, I mean, that shape was fundamentally vertical.
Oh, absolutely.
It operated on this assumption of just basic, totally reliable physics. You step onto an escalator at the ground floor.
Right, the classic entry-level mailroom gig.
Exactly. Or, the junior associate desk. You step on and gravity just holds you to the metal ridges of the step. You grip that black rubber handrail and the massive unseen machinery of the corporation just pulls you up.
It's an incredibly comforting piece of social engineering, really.
Yeah, it really is.
Because the progression is entirely visible. You can stand there, look 3 steps ahead of you, and see the middle managers.
Right.
And you can look all the way to the top floor and see the executives. I mean, the social contract was so clear. You bring loyalty, you keep your balance, and the machine will reliably deposit you at the top, right in time for retirement.
But then, you walk into the modern workplace today.
Yeah, good luck finding that escalator now.
Right. You step into this chaotic, fractured landscape of what actually motivates the workforce today, and you realize that not only is the escalator completely broken, well, the entire building housing has been demolished.
Complete leveled.
Yeah, the traditional ladder is just gone. And the replacement, it isn't a ladder at all. It's a sheer cliff face.
We are looking at a professional environment that is just defined by diagnostic muddy waters right now.
Mm.
The metrics for success, the timelines, the very nature of loyalty, none of it tracks with historical precedent anymore.
No, it really doesn't.
What we are really examining here is the fundamental restructuring of human motivation. The psychological mechanisms driving a worker in, say, 1985 and a worker today are so distinct they barely even share a common language.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive, right? We are going to explore this profound, absolute cultural shift in how we define ambition. And the source material we're pulling from today, it's not a standard business magazine editorial.
No, not at all.
And it's not some dry sociological white paper either. We are analyzing a transcript from an advanced C2 level English listening practice dialogue.
It's a really fascinating choice of lens for this topic.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Because this is a program designed to train non-native speakers in the absolute highest echelons of complex, nuanced English vocabulary.
Right, the really high-level stuff.
Exactly. The dialogue features 2 speakers who are attempting to decode the changing face of modern ambition. And in doing so, they have to reach for these highly specific, almost clinical language choices.
Yeah.
Just to capture the sheer nuance of modern workplace anxiety.
Because the language we use shapes the reality we experience.
Oh, 100%.
If you are experiencing this crushing, ambiguous pressure in your career and you only have basic vocabulary to describe it, that pressure just feels formless. It feels unbeatable.
It's just a generalized dread.
Exactly. But by using the C2 level dialogue, we're operating on 2 levels today. We are exploring the intense sociological observations these speakers make about our work culture, but we are also equipping you with the precise, high-level vocabulary required to actually name these modern anxieties that are keeping you up at night.
Giving it a name gives you power over it.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the total collapse of that old escalator model.
So the source material opens by describing what they call the post-war paradigm.
Right.
And it defines this era as a linear, almost dogmatic ascent up a single corporate ladder.
Yeah.
But the operative phrase they use to describe the fuel of that era, what actually kept people climbing, is difference and dogged determination.
Oh, I want to linger on that phrase for a second because it tells you everything you need to know about the psychological contract of the 20th century.
It really does.
Deference implies a will your submission to hierarchy. I mean, you don't question the escalator, you defer to its direction.
You just stand there and let it take you.
Right. And dogged determination, it isn't about flashy innovation, is it? It's about putting your head down and surviving the ride.
Just sheer endurance.
Exactly. And the people who built their lives on this model, the old guard, so to speak, they look at the career trajectories of millennials and Gen Z today, and they just see absolute chaos.
Right. But then the younger generations look back at the old guard and see a prison.
Yeah, total trap.
What's critical here is how the source text describes the fate of that post-war paradigm. It states explicitly that this linear corporate ladder has been well and truly consigned to the dustbin of history.
It's such a vivid image.
It is.
Like, it's not put in the attic for safekeeping. It's not placed in a museum to be admired.
No, it's trash.
Consigned to the dustbin.
Right, and that phrase implies a very specific kind of cultural obsolescence.
What do you mean?
Well, when something is consigned to the dustbin of history, society has collectively decided that it is fundamentally flawed. It's entirely useless for the future.
Oh, wow.
The consensus is that we cannot and will not ever go back to it. The machinery of the escalator has literally been thrown out.
And here's where the linguistic lens of our source material gets really sharp. We didn't just, accidentally misplace the corporate ladder.
No.
We didn't slowly drift away from it because we got distracted by smartphones or something. The text introduces this highly specific C2 level verb to describe how the modern workforce handled this transition.
The word is eschewed.
Eschewed. E-S-C-H-E-W-E-D. The speakers note that modern workers have eschewed the gold watch at retirement model.
And to eschew something is to deliberately avoid it, to intentionally abstain from it on principle.
That deliberate rejection is the fulcrum of this entire cultural shift. I mean, it wasn't passive.
Not at all.
A generation looked at that gold watch model where you basically offer 40 years of unquestioning obedience, deferring all your own dreams, just so a company can give you the piece of jewelry when you're 65.
Right, when your culturally deemed useful life is basically over.
Exactly. They looked at that and actively, intentionally said no. They eschewed it.
And because of that active rejection, the text describes the resulting fallout not as a passing trend or some economic fluctuation. They call it a seismic shift,
Seismic shift.
a foundational earthquake in the landscape of labor.
Yeah.
The ground has literally fractured beneath the workforce.
Which brings me back to my metaphor from earlier. If the old model was the escalator, the new reality described in this text is free solo rock climbing.
Oh, that's a great way to picture it.
Right. You are looking at a sheer cliff face. There is no harness. There is no predetermined path carved out for you.
It's just on the rock.
You have to step up to the rock and find your own handholds. Sometimes you have to move laterally. Sometimes you even have to climb down a few feet to find a safer route up.
Yeah, the path isn't strictly vertical anymore.
And it is hyper-personalized to your specific reach, your specific grip strength. But man, it is infinitely more precarious.
Terrifyingly so.
One misstep and you are in free fall because there is no corporate machinery catching you.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that profound precariousness, that terrifying reality of the cliff face, is exactly what drove the creation of the next major concept in our source material.
The portfolio of experiences.
Yes, the death of the ladder forced the birth of the portfolio of experiences, and it completely necessitated the modern side hustle.
The text makes this really counterintuitive argument here that I love. You would think that without a clear ladder to climb, people would just, become less ambitious.
Like apathy would set in.
Exactly. But the source argues the absolute inverse. Ambition hasn't been diluted, it has been distilled.
And that's a huge distinction. Dilution weakens a substance. Distillation boils away all the excess water, leaving only the most potent, concentrated essence behind.
Wow, yeah.
The text posits that modern ambition is actually far more potent than the ambition of the 1980s. It is just mutated into something highly individualized.
Because nobody is dreaming of being the generic vice president of a generic regional branch anymore.
No, the monolithic climb to the C-suite is dead.
Right. Instead, the source introduces this incredibly beautiful phrase: success is now defined by a bespoke mosaic of achievements.
A bespoke mosaic.
Yeah.
It really is the perfect architectural metaphor for a modern career.
It is.
You aren't buying a prefabricated stained glass window from a massive corporation anymore. You are out there scavenging for tiny, distinct pieces of glass and building the pattern yourself.
Yeah.
The text lists the new markers of success, like launching a passion project or mastering a tangentially related skill set.
Or successfully negotiating a 4-day work week without sacrificing productivity or pay.
Right. Success might simply be reclaiming your Friday.
I mean, the yardstick is completely idiosyncratic now. You can't compare your mosaic to mine because we aren't even using the same material.
Or not even playing the same game.
But, okay, here is where I want to challenge the source text a little bit, or at least challenge the historical amnesia we sometimes suffer from when we discuss modern work. The text points to the side hustle as the vital glue holding this bespoke mosaic together, right? Framing it as a modern defense mechanism against precariousness.
Yeah, that's their central argument.
But let me push back on this. Is the side hustle actually a new phenomenon resulting from a seismic shift, or did we just rebrand having a second job to make it sound cooler?
That's a fair question.
Like, if you look at the 1970s and 80s, people moonlighted all the time. They sold Tupperware, they painted houses on the weekends, they fixed cars in their driveways. Is the modern side hustle actually philosophically different?
That is a really crucial historical parallel to draw. But there is a fundamental philosophical and psychological divergence between moonlighting in 1978 and a side hustle in 2026.
Okay, how so?
Well, the person fixing cars in their driveway in 1978 was doing it strictly for supplemental capital.
Just to pay the bills.
Exactly. They were not attempting to build a personal brand around being a mechanic. They were not trying to integrate their weekend mechanical work into their core professional identity.
I see.
The source text explicitly states that the modern side hustle is an integral part of their professional identity. It functions as a psychological bulwark against the precariousness of a single income stream.
A bulwark.
Right. Today, the side hustle is viewed as an escape pod. It is this pervasive belief that if the corporate cliff face crumbles, your Etsy store or your freelance consulting gig will just deploy like a parachute.
So it's literally the monetization of hope.
Yes.
It's not just extra cash, it's the psychological safety net you have to weave yourself while you're hanging off that rock wall.
Precisely. But the speakers in the text highlight a really dark duality to this.
Which is?
On one hand, curating a bespoke mosaic is deeply empowering. You own your achievements. But on the other hand, it introduces this insidious, pervasive pressure that the post-war generation just never had to navigate.
It really brings up the question of whether we actually bought our freedom or if we just traded cages.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, like we jettisoned the cookie cutter life. We threw the corporate rigidity overboard because we found it oppressive. But did we just lock ourselves inside a different, infinitely faster hamster wheel?
Well, the experts in the dialogue lean heavily toward the hamster wheel interpretation.
Unsurprisingly.
And they point to the erosion of boundaries as the primary culprit here. The old post-war model was rigid, yes, but it possessed one universally acknowledged virtue.
It had an off switch.
Exactly.
You physically left the building at 5 o'clock. You clocked out. The machinery of the corporate ladder stayed at the office.
But today, the text notes that the lines between work and life are irrevocably blurred. Irrevocably, meaning the threshold has been crossed and cannot be uncrossed. The damage is permanent.
Wow.
When your passion project is also your side hustle, and your side hustle is your psychological bulwark against financial ruin, your downtime ceases to be restful.
It becomes a branding opportunity.
Yes, you are forced into a state of being constantly self-optimizing.
You literally can't just casually enjoy a hobby anymore.
No, you can't.
If you like to knit, you can't just sit on your couch and knit a slightly lopsided sweater for your dog.
That's wasted potential in today's economy.
Right. Hustle culture dictates that you must film a high-definition time-lapse of the knitting process. You have to edit it to trending audio, upload it, cultivate an audience, and then monetize the pattern.
It's exhausting just talking about it.
It is. Which brings us to one of the most scathing critiques in this entire C2 dialogue, the absolute fallacy of passion.
Oh, this part of the text launches a direct assault on the cultural mantra that has dominated graduation speeches for the last 2 decades.
You mean, if you follow your passion, you'll never work a day in your life?
Yes. They called it a complete fallacy, a lie built on terrible logic.
And they're right.
Because the reality, as outlined in the text, is that when you monetize your passion, you don't magically stop working.
No, you end up working twice as hard, usually for half the pay. And you compound all that financial stress with a massive dose of existential angst.
Because the stakes are fundamentally altered.
How so?
Well, if you fail at a generic administrative job, it's just a professional setback. You brush off your resume and find another escalator.
Right.
But if you fail at a business built entirely around your core artistic passion, if your bespoke mosaic crumbles, it feels like a rejection of your actual soul.
Oh, that is brutal. And the source offers a devastatingly bleak anecdote to illustrate this, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
One of the speakers talks about friends who bought into this fallacy. They turned their creative pursuits, like their art, their writing, their design, into their sole livelihood.
And what happened?
Well, now they're so profoundly bone deep, burnt out from trying to extract rent money from their soul, that they have come completely full circle.
What do you think?
They sit around actively fantasizing about having a boring, run-of-the-mill 9-to-5 job.
The irony is suffocating.
It really is.
The generation that actively eschewed the linear corporate ladder because it was a soul-crushing cage has basically built a series of bespoke, personalized cages out of their own hobbies.
And now they are desperately looking for the key to get back into the cubicle.
Just to find the off switch.
Just for the off switch. And as if this internal self-imposed pressure wasn't damaging enough, the source points out the external accelerant. We have poured high-octane gasoline on this entire fire.
Yes, we have.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text argues that the very nature of human comparison has mutated.
They are talking about the social media mechanism.
Exactly. Think about it. On the old post-war escalator, human comparison was geographically and temporally limited.
You looked at the guy at the desk next to you.
Right. Does he have a slightly nicer office? Does he make $5,000 more a year?
It was a linear apples-to-apples comparison.
But today, you aren't competing with the person in the next cubicle. You are competing with the aggressively curated highlight reels of a billion other bespoke careers globally.
The speakers actually refer to this as the funhouse mirror of modern ambition.
And it is a funhouse mirror that distorts reality to an absurd degree.
Completely.
The text provides a beautifully hyperbolic example of what a standard doom scroll looks like today.
Oh, I love this part.
You log on, and within 3 minutes, you're confronted with a peer, someone your exact age, who has supposedly written a poignant novel, launched a disruptive tech startup, mastered the art of artisanal sourdough baking, and is casually, aesthetically renovating a derelict farmhouse in the countryside.
The construction of that specific list in the dialogue is brilliant.
Isn't it?
Because it perfectly captures the impossible, multidisciplinary demands of modern success.
Yeah.
In the past, being a successful startup founder was enough. Now, that founder is expected to be intellectually profound, domestically capable, and aesthetically rustic.
All at the same time.
You must conquer the corporate sphere, the domestic sphere, and the intellectual sphere simultaneously, and you must make it look completely effortless.
It makes my arms tired just thinking about holding on to that rock wall. And the psychological toll of staring into that funhouse mirror is catastrophic. The source text actually dives into 2 specific psychological terms that have evolved from clinical jargon into everyday vocabulary, just to help us cope with this specific trauma.
First up is imposter syndrome.
Right. And in the context of our C2 linguistic analysis, the text defines imposter syndrome not just as a fleeting moment of self-doubt.
No, it's much heavier than that.
It's a persistent, chronic feeling that you are fundamentally less competent than others perceive you to be. It is the paralyzing fear that you are a fraud, a slacker who has somehow tricked everyone, and that the revelation of your incompetence is imminent.
When you are constantly bombarded by the farmhouse renovating, novel-writing startup founder, imposter syndrome is just the natural biological response.
You literally can't avoid it.
Even if you have a perfectly respectable, stable life, even if your bespoke mosaic is coming together nicely, staring at that highlight reel infects you with the absolute certainty that you are failing.
But imposter syndrome is just the baseline feeling of inadequacy, right?
Right.
The source introduces a second psychological term that explains the actual friction. The reason this modern landscape literally breaks our brains.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yes, cognitive dissonance.
This is undoubtedly the most profound sociological insight in the entire transcript.
I totally agree.
Cognitive dissonance is the severe mental discomfort, the actual psychological pain that occurs when a person holds 2 conflicting beliefs, truths, or values in their mind at the exact same
The
time.
brain just short circuits.
It struggles to reconcile the contradiction, which results in a state of extremely high friction.
So walk us through how the text applies the mechanics of cognitive dissonance to the social media funhouse mirror.
Sure. So when you view the curated highlight reel of the peer with the startup in the farmhouse, your rational brain activates.
Okay.
Intellectually, you know it is a lie. You know it is a carefully constructed facade.
You know they're not showing everything.
Exactly. You are fully aware that they're using filters, that they had contractors help with the farmhouse, that they aren't posting their rejection emails or the nights they cried from stress. Intellectually, you understand that you are looking at a sanitized fiction.
Right. We all say this. We all repeat the mantra, social media isn't real.
We do. But the cognitive dissonance occurs because emotionally, your primitive brain still processes the image as a threat to your social standing.
Oh, wow.
Emotionally, you still feel profoundly inadequate.
Yeah.
You feel like you are falling behind the pack.
So you are holding the truth. This image is a fabricated lie, and the resulting emotional belief I am failing compared to the person in this image in your head simultaneously.
Exactly. It is the mental equivalent of knowing how a magic trick works.
What do you mean?
Well, the rabbit was stuffed in a hidden compartment in the hat the entire time. You intellectually understand the mechanics of the illusion,
Right.
but emotionally, you still feel terrible about yourself because you can't magically pull a rabbit out of your own hat.
That is such a brilliant analogy.
The friction between knowing it's fake and feeling awful anyway is what just grinds us down.
Which naturally brings the dialogue in our source material to a breaking point.
They had to ask the big question.
They did. The speakers are forced to ask the ultimate, perhaps most transgressive question of this entire cultural shift.
This raises an important question.
Yeah.
If the escalator is demolished and the bespoke rock climbing wall requires an exhausting, constantly self-optimizing side hustle,
And the social media funhouse mirror is actively destroying our mental health through cognitive dissonance.
what is the alternative?
Exactly. What is the alternative? The source text poses a genuinely radical thought. What about the ambition to not be ambitious in the traditional sense?
The ambition to consciously cultivate a quiet life.
Yes. Is there space in this hyper-optimized modern world to explicitly prioritize your family, your community, your hobbies, and your own mental well-being over career progression?
Or, as the text bluntly challenges, is making that choice universally viewed as a cop-out?
Right. If you step off the free solo rock climbing wall, sit down in the dirt, and just say, I'm done climbing, are you culturally branded as a failure?
The source material offers a deeply compelling, almost optimistic perspective on this, actually.
It does.
It suggests that a counter-movement is beginning to take root. And to describe this movement, the text introduces its final and arguably its most beautiful C2-level vocabulary word,
Let's hear it.
nascent.
Nascent. Nascent.
The speakers observe a nascent backlash against the cult of hustle culture.
A nascent backlash.
And the linguistic breakdown of the word is vital here. Nascent does not simply mean new.
Right.
It describes something that is just coming into existence, but inherently displays signs of massive, disruptive future potential. It is not a fleeting trend. It is the birth of a new paradigm.
I love the imagery of a nascent backlash. It evokes the image of a tiny, fragile green shoot pushing its way up through a thick slab of concrete.
Yes, perfect.
The concrete is the entrenched cult of hustle culture, the monetization of hobbies, the cognitive dissonance, the bespoke cages. And that tiny green shoot is a collective exhaustion.
It's millions of people quietly whispering, I am incredibly tired and I don't want to play this game anymore.
What warrants extensive speculation here is why choosing a quiet life is now framed as an act of rebellion.
Well, think about the post-war paradigm we discussed earlier.
Right.
Living a quiet life was the default setting of society. You went to the factory or the office, you did your job, you came home, and your evenings belonged to you.
Nobody expected you to be building a brand at 8 p.m.
Exactly. But now, because of the relentless, pervasive pressure to self-optimize, choosing not to monetize your existence is viewed as a radical defiance of modern capitalist norms.
It is genuinely punk rock to have a hobby that you are objectively terrible at and that generates zero revenue.
Completely punk rock.
Knitting a structurally unsound sweater, refusing to take a picture of it, and just wearing it around your house is a revolutionary act in 2026.
It is the act of rejection of the audience.
But making that choice, stepping into that nascent movement, is incredibly difficult.
Oh, extremely.
If the corporate ladder is gone and the bespoke portfolio is exhausting, how do we individually redefine success without succumbing to the guilt that we aren't doing enough?
So, what does this all mean? Where does this linguistic and sociological deconstruction actually leave us?
The source text brings all of these complex vocabulary words and heavy observations to a brilliantly sharp conclusion.
They arrive at a new philosophy.
The speakers conclude that the most radical form of ambition in the 21st century is the conscious choice of enough.
Enough.
Just enough.
It's a simple, common word, but when deployed against the seismic shifts and the cognitive dissonance of the modern era, it becomes an incredibly heavy anchor.
The text redefines ambition entirely. Radical ambition is no longer the C-suite.
And it's no longer the farmhouse startup.
Radical ambition is cultivating a life that is rich in meaning, rich in deep connection, and rich in reclaimed time, rather than a life that is simply exhaustingly financially rich.
But the speakers add a crucial, sobering caveat to this philosophy.
You.
They explicitly note that taking this path, stepping away from the highlight reels, putting down the side hustle, and embracing enough requires a staggering amount of courage.
Because you are entirely untethered from external validation.
Exactly. You have eschewed the old post-war paradigm, so you won't get a gold watch or a pension.
Right.
And you are rejecting the new hustle culture paradigm, so you won't get the dopamine hit of 1,000 likes on your side hustle launch post.
You are forging a completely unmapped, invisible path.
And you have to constantly battle the imposter syndrome that tells you your quiet life is synonymous with failure.
Because nobody is going to throw you a parade for having a really present, distraction-free weekend with your kids.
Oh, they are.
Nobody is going to endorse your LinkedIn profile for sleeping 8 hours and reading a fiction book. There is no external validation mechanism for enough. You have to build the internal architecture to validate it yourself.
Which brings us to the profound underlying genius of the source material.
Yeah, let's bring it back to the language.
By framing this entire complex sociological debate within an advanced English language lesson, the text is reinforcing the idea that language is the ultimate tool of reality construction.
Because when you are drowning in anxiety on a Sunday night because your side hustle isn't growing and you just saw a peer launch a startup, that anxiety feels massive and unbeatable because it is nameless.
It's just a dark cloud.
But by taking this deep dive, by learning to call that friction cognitive dissonance, by identifying the cultural push as the fallacy of passion, and by recognizing your desire to rest as part of a nascent backlash, you aren't just learning C2 vocabulary.
No, you are acquiring intellectual weaponry.
You are acquiring the tools required to dismantle the insidious pressures of modern hustle culture right in your own brain.
Once you have the vocabulary to precisely describe the dimensions of the cage, you can actually begin the work of dismantling it.
And as we bring this deep dive to a close, we want to leave you with a final, lingering thought.
A question to carry with you that builds on the foundation of everything we've explored today.
Exactly.
Imagine, just as a thought experiment, that you could completely strip away the funhouse mirror.
Okay.
Imagine you deleted every social media app and permanently lost the ability to view the curated highlight reels of your peers.
Sounds peaceful, honestly.
Right. And imagine, furthermore, that you were entirely insulated from the financial precariousness of the modern cliff face. You didn't need a bulwark against ruin.
If nobody was watching and survival wasn't a question.
What would your personal unmonetized ambition actually look like? What is the exact shape of enough for you?
If the escalator is truly gone and the rock wall is just an exhausting illusion, where do you actually want to walk?
Such a powerful question to end on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you carry this new vocabulary and this radically different perspective on ambition into your week.
Take care, everyone.
Until next time. You are sitting on your couch, completely relaxed.
Oh, the best feeling.
Right. Maybe you're watching a show, maybe you're reading, your brain is just in full neutral.
Absolutely.
Then your phone screen lights up, you glance over, and it's a text bubble, an invitation.
Oh.
Yeah, someone wants to get dinner or go to a party or, grab coffee. And instead of feeling flattered that someone wants to spend time with you, your stomach just throbs.
It's a massive spike of anxiety.
Exactly. You feel this immediate panic. Like, how do you reply? So you start typing.
And then you delete it.
You immediately delete it because, you type something else and it sounds too eager. So you delete it again.
Right. And now the new draft sounds freezing cold.
100%. You try a third time and suddenly it sounds like you're making up this terrible, complicated excuse.
Well, today's deep dive is basically the ultimate cheat code for that exact universally agonizing moment.
It really is.
We're going to show you how microscopic word choices literally dictate your social survival. It's a phenomenal topic because, everyone experiences that paralysis. That blinking cursor represents a high-stakes puzzle.
It totally does.
You aren't just managing a calendar, You're managing human emotions, ego, and the invisible boundaries of a relationship.
So true. And we are pulling all of this insight today from an incredibly useful communication guide called Pod Zone.
Fantastic resource.
It really is.
Right.
Specifically, we're tearing into a masterclass installment they did called The Art of Making and Responding to English Invitations, which is hosted by these two brilliant communication experts, Emma and John.
Right.
Our mission today is to extract the absolute best nuggets of knowledge from their curriculum to help you, the listener, navigate your social calendar without, breaking a sweat.
That's the goal.
And what I really love about how PodZone frames this is that they categorize language by fluency levels, specifically the CEFR scale.
The standard European framework.
Exactly. For anyone unfamiliar, it's the standard framework for language proficiency. So you have your A2 to B1 level, which is basically survival mode.
Right, the functional stuff.
Yeah, the foundational English you use just to get through a basic interaction. And then you have the C1 level.
The master class.
The master class.
Okay.
C1 is high-level fluency. It's understanding nuance, reading the room, employing sarcasm, and, gracefully backing out of a dinner party without burning a bridge. We're going to climb that ladder today.
What's fascinating here is the overarching philosophy that Emma and John bring to this. It's something we often forget, honestly.
Which is?
That an invitation is never just a grammatical exchange of information. It is a complex social negotiation.
Wow.
Every single time you make an ask or respond to one, you are actively adding bricks to the foundation of a relationship. Or, conversely, you are subtly chipping away at the mortar.
So there's no neutral interaction.
Exactly. There is no neutral interaction.
Okay, well, before we can start untangling the really messy, high-stakes stuff like how to reject someone without ruining a friendship, we really need to look at how basic invitations are built from the ground up.
Right.
We have to start at that A2B1 survival level.
We need to understand the structural architecture of a simple low-stakes ask. If the foundation is cracked, the entire social interaction collapses before it even begins.
So PodZone lays out the simplest ways to invite someone out. And on the surface, they look almost too basic to analyze.
You do.
But there is a hidden genius to them. They give two foundational examples. The first is, would you like to get a coffee sometime?
Classic.
And the slightly more informal version is, do you want to go to the cinema on Friday? Now, the curriculum spends a massive amount of time zeroing in on one specific word in that first example. The word sometime.
Sometime is doing an unbelievable amount of heavy lifting in that sentence.
Really? Just that one word?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The guy highlights it as being deliberately open and low pressure. Think about the psychology of early relationship building. When you invite someone to do something, you are essentially asking them to surrender a portion of their most precious, non-renewable resource.
Their time.
Their time. And human beings naturally have a defensive response to that.
That makes sense.
If you approach an acquaintance and say, would you like to get a coffee at 3:15 p.m. this coming Thursday at the cafe on 4th Street?
Whoa.
Right? You have instantly front-loaded the interaction with massive logistical stress.
You're forcing their brain to do intense calendar math before they've even had a second to decide if they actually want to drink coffee with you.
Exactly.
They're standing there thinking, okay, Thursday, I have that budget meeting at 2 and Juro. It might run late. What's the parking like on 4th Street? Will I have to rush to pick up the kids?
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting just listening to it.
It creates a cognitive traffic jam. They have to weigh their commute, their workload, their energy levels, all against the social value of your offer. And they have to do it all in real time.
That is way too much pressure.
But by appending the word sometime to the end of, would you like to get a coffee?
Yeah.
You completely bypass the cognitive traffic jam.
Oh, wow.
You strip away the logistical anxiety. You are separating the concept of spending time together from the mechanics of actually making it happen.
I love that.
You allow the other person to say yes to the relationship first without having to commit their calendar.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we also have to look at the acceptance side of this low-pressure S.
Right.
PodZone emphasizes that your response needs to be bright and enthusiastic. Things like, yes, I'd love to, or that sounds great.
Keep the energy up.
Exactly. But they add a crucial follow-up mechanism. Once you accept with enthusiasm, you have to immediately deploy a specific question.
When are you free?
Yes. When are you free?
Which is the brilliant, necessary second half of the sometime strategy.
Oh, so?
Well, the person making the invitation uses some time to absorb the pressure and make the offer safe.
Okay.
And the person accepting the invitation uses when are you free to gently reintroduce the logistics, but only after mutual interest has been safely established.
Oh, that's so smart.
It signals reciprocal investment. It basically tells the inviter, hey, I didn't just accept your vague offer to be polite. I actually want to execute this plan.
Okay, I have an analogy. Is making these basic foundational invitations essentially like tossing a gentle tennis ball to a toddler?
I like where this is going.
You know, you want to loft it over the net in a high, slow arc to make it as physically easy as possible for them to catch it and throw it back. You aren't stepping up to the baseline and trying to serve a 90-mile-an-hour ace past them.
No, definitely not.
You just want to keep the rally going.
The tennis ball analogy is perfect because a 90-mile-an-hour serve in a social setting is a demand for an immediate, high-effort response. Sometime is the gentle lob.
But, I mean, I look at sometime, and my immediate thought is, isn't that almost dangerously vague?
It could be.
Doesn't it carry the very real risk that the plan just, evaporates into the ether? I mean, we all have those friends where we've been doing the, oh my gosh, we should totally get coffee sometime dance for literally half a day.
Oh, for sure. That is the inherent risk, and the guide actually acknowledges it. Yeah. But at this foundational A2B1 level, the primary goal is not immediate execution.
It's not.
No, the goal is establishing a positive social baseline.
Okay.
Think about it. If you say, would you like to get coffee sometime? And they say, yeah, that sounds great. But neither you ever follows up with, when are you free? You've still achieved something vital.
What's that?
You've confirmed mutual goodwill. No one loses face. No one gets explicitly rejected. The priority early on is emotional safety over immediate scheduling.
That makes total sense. So throwing the easy high-arc tennis ball is one thing, but what happens when that ball comes floating over the net toward you and you just, do not want to play?
Oh, boy.
Right. This transitions us into one of the most stressful parts of human existence, declining an invite without causing offense.
The absolute worst.
This is where the real dread lives in those text bubbles.
The fear of seeming rude is deeply biologically hardwired into us.
Really? Biologically?
Yes. As social creatures, a rejection of an invitation is incredibly difficult to separate from a rejection of the person making the invitation.
Oh.
Our primitive brains interpret, I don't want to go to your dinner, as, I am exiling you from the tribe.
That is so dramatic.
But that's how it feels. So the language we use to decline has to perform an enormous amount of emotional heavy lifting. We have to prove that the relationship itself is still highly valued, even while the specific event is being rejected.
Okay, so Podzone introduces a 3-part formula for the soft no, and it is just incredibly clean.
It really is.
Step 1, say something positive, like, that sounds fun. Step 2, say no with a simple reason, but I'm afraid I can't on Friday, I'm busy.
Right.
And step 3, say thank you. Thanks so much for asking, though. It's essentially a polite little sandwich.
A very effective sandwich.
You've got the validation on top, gratitude on the bottom, and a tiny digestible slice of rejection right in the middle.
Exactly. It's an incredibly effective structural sandwich. And the real magic happens in step 2.
The middle part.
Yes. The curriculum isolates the phrase, I'm afraid I can't. This is a brilliant linguistic mechanism.
Why is that brilliant?
Think about what the words I'm afraid actually do in that sentence. By using them, you are positioning your inability to attend as a tragic external circumstance.
Oh, I see.
You are framing yourself as a victim of the calendar. It's not that you won't go, it's that the uncaring universe has cruelly prevented you from going.
That's hilarious, but it works.
It softens the blow by removing your personal agency from the rejection.
Okay, I see the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
But if I put myself in the shoes of the person receiving that text, if a friend just told me I'm busy, I think my feelings would be slightly hurt.
Really?
Yeah. The text calls I'm busy an all-purpose reason where you don't need to give a lot of detail. But doesn't that feel a little cold?
It can feel that way.
Right. If my best friend just texted I'm busy with zero context, my brain would immediately spin a narrative that they are furious with me.
Well, it is a very delicate tightrope. But the curriculum is highly specific about why this works. The warmth in this 3-part formula is entirely generated by parts 1 and 3.
The buns of the sandwich.
Exactly. The enthusiastic opening and the grateful closing. The brevity of I'm busy in the middle is actually a vital defense mechanism.
Against what?
Against a much worse social sin. Over-explaining.
Oh.
Consider what happens when people feel guilty about saying no. They panic. and they start offering an avalanche of detail.
Oh my gosh, I've done this. You start rambling. I would love to, but I have to wait for the plumber, and my dog has a weird rash, so I need to monitor him, and my aunt might be calling from out of town.
Exactly. And what happens when you do that?
I look insane.
Well, yeah. But even if every single word of that excuse is the absolute verifiable truth, it immediately sounds like a fabrication.
It totally does.
The human ear interprets an overabundance of detail as deception. When you give someone a massive, multi-tiered excuse, you're also giving them a massive amount of surface area to argue with.
Oh, right.
If you say, I have to wash my dog, the inviter might cheerfully reply, oh, no worries, just wash him on Saturday morning instead.
And now you're trapped. You have to either invent a second lie about why Saturday doesn't work, or you have to admit you just didn't want to go.
Precisely. By keeping the middle of the sandwich to a simple, unassailable, I'm busy, you maintain the positive baseline of the friendship without trapping yourself in a labyrinth of excuses.
That is so freeing.
I'm busy leaves no room for negotiation. It is closed door, but the sounds fun and thank you make it a closed door with a very welcoming welcome Mac.
Okay, that makes total sense. So we've conquered the casual, I'm busy, we can manage our friends. But the rules of the game change entirely when we move out of casual texting and into formal written obligations.
Oh, completely.
You cannot send a text that says, oh, sounds fun, but I'm busy, thanks, to a senior executive who just invited you to a formal charity gala.
Definitely do not do that.
Or to a colleague inviting you to their wedding. The stakes skyrocket when there's a paper trail.
The entire protocol shifts. The casual invitations we just discussed are all about managing emotional proximity, keeping people feeling close and valued. Formal invitations operate on an entirely different axis. They were about managing professional distance, respecting established hierarchies, and adhering to tradition.
And the Pod Zone Guide dedicates a significant portion of its curriculum to this. They use weddings as the ultimate stress test for formal English.
Weddings are perfect for that.
They start by defining the classic acronym RSVP for their learners. It stands for Répondez s'il vous plaît.
Which is French for please reply.
Exactly. And they provide exact word-for-word email templates that are fascinating to look at because the vocabulary is so rigid.
It's very structured.
For accepting a formal invite, the guide instructs you to write, Dear name, thank you so much for the invitation. I would be delighted to attend your wedding. Best wishes.
Notice the shift in tone there. It's immediate.
It really is.
You move from the casual A2 level I'd love to the elevated I would be delighted to attend. It is polished. It is slightly emotionally distant, but it is impeccably polite. It signals respect for the gravity of the event.
But the template for declining is where it gets incredibly stark.
Let's hear it.
If you can't go to the wedding, the guide tells you to write, Unfortunately, I will be unable to attend as I have a prior commitment. I wish you all the best on your special day.
Ah, yes.
That phrase right in the middle. Prior commitment. Let's put that under a microscope. Why is this the formal C-suite equivalent of I'm busy? It sounds so rigid, like you're reading a prepared statement at a legal deposition.
It does sound legalistic, and that is exactly its purpose. The function of formal language is to purposefully strip away all messy personal details in order to construct and maintain a professional boundary.
Okay.
When you deploy a phrase like prior commitment, you are building an opaque wall. You are sending two simultaneous signals.
What are they?
First, you are respecting the formality of their event by using elevated traditional vocabulary. Second, you are politely but firmly refusing to invite them into the personal mechanics of your life.
That's a great way to put it.
It is the ultimate universally respected boundary. I mean, no one in the history of etiquette replies to the phrase prior commitment by asking, oh, really? What commitment? What are you doing instead?
You would never do that. It feels like it would be a massive violation of social rules to pry past those two words.
Because prior commitment is an agreed upon social fiction. Your prior commitment could be a crucial business trip to Tokyo. Or it could be that you plan to sit on your couch eating cereal and watching reality television.
Which is a very valid commitment.
Exactly. The genius of the phrase is that it treats both of those activities with the exact same level of impenetrable dignity.
So what does this all mean? I look at all this formality, the French acronyms, the stiff templates, and I have to ask, isn't the rigidity of the system actually a massive relief?
In what way?
Because with my close friends, if I have to cancel or say no, I agonize for hours over the tone. Am I sounding warm enough? Should I use an exclamation point, an emoji?
Oh, the emoji stress is real.
It is. But with a formal wedding invite, I just plug my name into this PodZone template, hit send, and I feel zero guilt. It completely removes the guesswork.
The guide implicitly points to this phenomenon. The simple, rigid structure of formal etiquette is basically a technology designed to remove emotional labor from social logistics.
I love that.
You don't have to worry about sounding authentic or funny or sufficiently warm. The template does the heavy lifting for you.
It's like autopilot.
Yes. It protects the person inviting you from feeling personally rejected, and it protects you from having to invent a detailed excuse. It is a highly civilized, efficient system for managing human movement without having to manage human feelings.
Okay, we have the functional basics locked down. The casual coffee lob is handled. The formal wedding template is saved in our drafts.
We're doing great.
But real lived experience, especially with the people we are closest to, rarely fits into those neat little boxes.
It never does.
This is where we cross the threshold into PodZone's C1 masterclass. This is the deep end of the pool.
Here we go.
The guide explains that at this level, invitations are no longer just logistical questions about dates and times. They are complex, nuanced social signals.
This is the transition point where language ceases to be just a tool for exchanging information and becomes an instrument of high-level social strategy.
Right.
At the C1 level, you are navigating vulnerability, status, unspoken expectations, and the subtle maintenance of long-term bonds.
They introduce this concept called exploratory language, which is absolutely brilliant. It's the language you use to gauge someone's interest in hanging out before you actually commit to making a hard plan.
Right.
The guide provides this advanced C1 invitation as an example. I was wondering if you might be free to catch up over coffee sometime in the next couple of weeks.
That is a beautifully constructed sentence.
It is. And the second method they highlight is the art of floating a tentative plan. Like, we should really get that curry we've been talking about. Let me know when you have a quiet week coming up.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the brilliance of the C1 approach is entirely about mitigating vulnerability.
How do you mean?
Whenever you invite someone out, you are extending a piece of yourself, which means you are vulnerable to rejection. Exploratory language is armor against that rejection. Let's dissect the grammar of that first example. I was wondering if that is beautifully indirect.
Right.
By putting the thought into the past continuous tense, was wondering, you immediately distance yourself from the urgency of the request. You are framing it not as a present demand, but as a casual thought that floated through your mind previously.
It's linguistic sleight of hand. You're basically telling them, hey, I had this thought a while ago. It's not a huge priority right this second, just tossing it into the breeze.
Exactly, and it continues. They follow that with might be free. Might is a hypothetical modal verb. It is infinitely softer and less demanding than asking, are you free?
It's all about softening.
You're dealing in possibilities, not certainties. Finally, they use the phrasal verb catch up. The guide explicitly notes that catch up is not just a synonym for talking.
And what does it imply?
It implies a pre-existing relationship that has value and requires maintenance. You aren't just ingesting caffeine, you are acknowledging a shared history and expressing a desire to bridge the gap that time has created between you.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. I read these tentative, highly engineered invitations, and the image that immediately comes to mind is a submarine in the middle of the dark ocean sending out a single sonar ping.
A sonar ping, I like that.
Right. You don't want to surface the submarine and aggressively announce your presence. That's way too risky. You just send out one quiet little ping into the water to see if there's any interest out there. If you get a ping back, great, you surface and make the plan. If you get nothing but silence, you just glide away into the deep. No one gets hurt.
The sonar ping is an incredibly accurate way to visualize it. It tests the environment and measures the depth of the other person's availability before you commit your own resources to a plan.
But looking at the second C1 example, let me know when you have a quiet week coming up. I feel my anxiety spike just hearing it.
Why is that?
Does putting the ball entirely in their court like that actually backfire? I know so many people who suffer from severe scheduling fatigue.
Oh, that's very true.
If you text them, let me know when your work's for you, they freeze. They are already managing their work calendar, their kids' calendar, and now you are handing them the burden of project managing the friendship. Doesn't that exploratory language actually create more stress?
It is a highly relevant modern problem. Scheduling fatigue, or decision fatigue, is real, and putting the ball in their court can sometimes feel like assigning them homework.
Exactly.
However, PodZone explicitly defends this strategy, stating that it signals clear intent while maintaining a low-pressure environment. The crucial factor here is the C1 context.
Okay, tell me about the context.
At this advanced level of social fluency, you are assuming a baseline of mutual respect and capability. You're sending a signal that says, I clearly want to spend time with you, the intent is established, but I respect your autonomy and your busy life enough to let you dictate the terms of engagement.
Oh, I see.
You are offering them sovereignty over their own calendar, which, in healthy relationships, is seen as a gesture of deep respect, not an offloading of labor.
That reframes it nicely. It's like saying, my desire for curry with you is high, but my respect for your sanity overrides my need for immediate curry.
Perfectly said.
I can see how that functions as a compliment, but this leads to a critical pivot. If a C1 speaker is a master at sending out these delicate sonar pings, how do they handle an incoming ping for an event they desperately, on a cellular level, want to avoid?
That is the true crucible of social mastery.
It's the worst.
Declining an invitation in a way that makes the person feel deeply valued while simultaneously rejecting their offer is one of the most difficult linguistic tightropes a human being can walk.
The guide sets up a scenario that gives me secondhand panic.
But let's hear it.
You are invited to a party, you look at the details, and you instantly know it's going to be awful.
We've all been there.
You imagine the forced small talk, the music that's just a little too loud, the awkward standing around in a kitchen. Your entire soul rebels against going, but it's a good friend, so you can't just text, I don't feel like it.
Definitely not.
So the curriculum provides this masterful C1 level decline. I'm going to quote it in full.
Okay.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to sit this one out. I've had a completely frantic week, and my plan is to have a very quiet weekend to recharge. I'm gutted. I'll miss it, though.
Wow.
Right.
To appreciate the architecture of that response, we have to hold it up next to the basic A2 response we looked at earlier, which was simply, I'm busy.
Right.
The C1 speaker completely transcends I'm busy by providing rich context and a forward-looking emotional statement. Look at the idiom they use. Sit this one out.
Yeah.
That is a wonderfully disarming team sports metaphor. It subconsciously implies, I'm still on your team. I'm still part of your roster. I am just taking a rest on the bench for this specific play.
It perfectly implies ongoing participation in the broader relationship, while surgically extracting you from this one specific event.
Exactly.
And then there's the word gutted. I'm gutted, I'll miss it. That is such a visceral, uniquely British slang term for being deeply physically disappointed.
It carries immense emotional weight. But the true anchor of this advanced refusal is the combination of frantic week and the need to recharge.
Why does that work so well?
Blaming a frantic week is arguably the most effective strategy in modern communication because our society universally recognizes, validates, and even mildly glorifies the concept of burnout.
Oh, totally.
By framing your refusal around personal exhaustion and the need to recharge your batteries, you guarantee that the host will not interpret your absence as a critique of their party.
It's a get-out-of-jail-free card.
It removes all judgment from the equation. It is purely a matter of your own diminished biological capacity.
I find it endlessly fascinating that the absolute height of politeness is to make the entire situation selfishly about yourself.
It is ironic.
You're saying, it's not that your party will be bad, it's that my life is currently a disaster. But let's look at the reality of this. PodZone actually mentions this dynamic. What if you aren't gutted?
What do you mean?
What if you send that text saying, I'm gutted, I'll miss it, and then you literally do a happy dance in your living room because you get to stay in your sweatpants? Are we, by teaching this C1 language, essentially just advocating for elegant, socially sanctioned lying?
It opens up a deep philosophical debate about the fundamental nature of politeness.
I'm ready for it.
Is politeness about strict, literal truth, or is it about social harmony? The guide's stance is pragmatic. The primary goal is to decline the specific invitation while reinforcing the overall relationship.
Okay.
In the complex grammar of adult social interaction, politeness often demands that you prioritize the other person's ego over your own literal truth. You are not lying to manipulate them maliciously. You are employing the polite fiction of being gutted as a social shock absorber.
It's the padding that keeps the gears of society from grinding to a halt.
Exactly. When a C1 speaker says, I'm gutted, both parties usually understand the unspoken translation.
Which is?
It translates to, I value you and I want you to feel good about your event, rather than, I am literally experiencing profound, debilitating sorrow at missing your cocktail hour. The fiction protects the bond.
Okay, I buy that. The lie is the necessary lubricant. But sometimes the situation isn't so black and white.
True.
Sometimes you don't need a weekend to recharge. Sometimes you genuinely love the person, you really want to see them, but the activity they have proposed is your absolute worst nightmare.
Ah, yes.
How do you split that difference? This brings us to what I think is the most tactical, high-value section of the Pod Zone curriculum.
This is the delicate realm of the counteroffer. It requires supreme emotional intelligence because you have to successfully reject the premise of their invitation without rejecting their personhood.
You have to separate the art from the artist.
So to speak, yes.
The curriculum uses a highly relatable example, the loud stadium gig scenario.
I know this one.
Your friend invites you to a massive concert, but you hate loud venues, you hate crowds, you get a migraine just thinking about the parking situation.
See.
The guide offers this incredible counteroffer strategy. Wow, that's an amazing opportunity. To be honest, big stadium gigs aren't really my scene these days, but I'm desperate to catch up with you. Would you be up for grabbing dinner and a proper chat next week instead?
This specific response is a masterclass in structural diplomacy. We can break it down into 3 strategic, highly sequential steps based on the guide's breakdown.
Walk me through them.
Step 1 is absolute validation. Wow, that's an amazing opportunity. Before you do anything else, you must acknowledge their generosity and mirror their excitement.
You have to catch the ball and tell them it's a great ball before you can throw a different one back.
Beautifully put. Step 2 is stating your preference, but doing it with extreme gentleness. Big stadium gigs aren't really my scene these days.
These days.
Exactly. The phrase "these days" is doing vital work here. It suggests that your dislike of concerts is a natural, perhaps age-related evolution of your own personal tastes, rather than a rigid, snobby judgment against the music they love.
It's not you, it's my aging ears.
Right. And step 3 is the pivot. Proposing an alternative that prioritizes one-on-one connection, grabbing dinner and a proper chat next week instead.
It is literal conversational judo.
It really is.
You are taking the momentum of their invitation, their forward energy and desire to hang out, and instead of blocking it, you just gently redirect that energy onto a safer, quieter mat.
Exactly.
But let me ask you about the risk factor here. By immediately offering dinner instead of the concert, are you basically telling them your idea was bad and too loud, let's do my much better idea instead? Does the counteroffer ever risk coming off as controlling the friendship?
It avoids coming off as controlling strictly through the vocabulary it deploys. The guide points out the exact phrasing. You've rejected the activity, not the person.
Oh, I see.
The phrases "desperate to catch up" and "proper chat" are the safety nets here. By using those specific words, you elevate the value of the relationship, far above the value of the concert tickets.
That's a great point.
You are essentially telling them, a loud concert is entirely inadequate for my modes because it doesn't allow me to focus 100% of my attention on you. It transforms a rejection into an immense, flattering compliment.
I like you way too much to shout at you over a bass guitar for 3 hours.
Exactly.
That is brilliant. It flatters their ego while simultaneously saving your eardrums. It's a win-win.
It really is.
But now we must arrive at the final boss of social anxiety.
Oh no.
We've talked about how to make plans, how to accept them, how to softly decline them, and how to judo flip them into better plans. But what happens when the absolute worst-case scenario occurs?
Breaking a plan.
You've locked in a plan, the calendar is set, the restaurant is booked, and now you have to break it, you have to cancel.
Canceling an established plan is arguably the most volatile and dangerous social action we've discussed today.
Because it's a broken promise.
Exactly. Making a plan creates an emotional contract. When you cancel, you are directly breaching that contract. The fallout can permanently damage a relationship if not handled with absolute precision.
The Pod Zone Guide dives right into the deep end on how to retract an invitation or cancel a firm plan. And again, the language they recommend is dense with strategy. Here is their template for bailing.
Let's hear it.
I am so incredibly sorry to do this, but I'm afraid I have to bail on our dinner plans. Something unavoidable has come up at work. I feel terrible about this. Are you free at all next week to reschedule? Dinner will be my treat.
Let's dissect the social damage of canceling first. When you break a plan, regardless of your reason, the subconscious signal you are sending to the other person is that their time was less valuable to you than whatever alternative arose.
That hurts.
It does. To mitigate that profound insult, your language must be extreme. You start with the informal idiom, bail.
I have to bail.
Right. By saying, I have to bail, You are acknowledging the letdown. You are admitting that you are the one failing the interaction. Then you pivot to the classic, universally deployed professional excuse. Something unavoidable has come up at work.
The unavoidable work emergency. It is the bulletproof vest of modern excuses.
It functions that way because it entirely removes your personal agency. It implies you are not choosing to ditch your friend. You are being forcefully coerced by economic and professional pressures to break the plan.
You are a victim of capitalism, not a bad friend.
Exactly. However, the guide asserts a crucial point. The excuse itself is never enough to repair the breach of contract.
Really?
The critical, non-negotiable component is taking immediate ownership and responsibility for the repair. You must say, I feel terrible about this, followed instantly by the action. Are you free at all next week to reschedule?
And then they add that kicker at the end. Dinner will be my treat is offering to pay for the rescheduled dinner, basically paying a literal fine for breaking the emotional contract.
In a very real sociological sense, yes. It is a tangible financial offering made to restore the balance of the relationship. You have caused an inconvenience, so you pay a tax to make them whole again.
But let me look at this from the perspective of the person getting canceled on. If a friend texts me at 4:00 p.m. and says, something unavoidable had come up at work, I will be honest, my immediate assumption is that they just decided they were too tired.
Or they want to watch a movie.
Exactly. They just wanted to go home, put on sweatpants, and watch Netflix. In 2026, does the professional excuse actually work anymore? Or do we all secretly know it's just socially acceptable code for, I don't have the energy for you today?
This raises an important question about the erosion of trust in modern communication. Does the work emergency excuse still hold weight?
Does it?
The curriculum explains that the validity of the excuse is no longer proven by the words themselves. It is proven entirely by the action that immediately follows it. If someone cancels, says work emergency, and leaves it at that, you are entirely justified in your suspicion that they are just choosing Netflix over you.
Vindication.
But if they offer to pay for the next dinner and immediately demand to lock in a new date, it proves that the cancellation was a genuine last resort, not a casual dismissal.
The action is the proof.
Yes.
Yes.
It's the action, the labor of rescheduling, and the financial offering of my treat that repairs the emotional contract. The tangible effort makes it nearly impossible to interpret the cancellation as a lack of interest in the friendship.
That is profound. The money and the calendar invite put your mouth where your text message is. If you're willing to buy the steak next Tuesday, I will forgive the fact that you bailed on me this Thursday.
Precisely.
What an incredible journey this text takes us on. Let's pull back and look at the entire landscape we've covered today. For you, the listener, we've tracked the complete life cycle of a social interaction.
From start to finish.
We started from the simplest foundational building blocks. The safe, low-pressure tennis lob of, would you like to get coffee sometime?
Right.
And we traveled all the way up to the high-level, high-stakes emotional intelligence of the decline and counteroffer and the crisis management of breaking established plans.
So it's quite a spectrum.
And the core shining takeaway from all of this is that handling these everyday interactions deliberately and thoughtfully makes your social life vastly less stressful and significantly more successful. You truly do not have to dread that blinking text bubble anymore. You have the blueprint.
It is a powerful blueprint. And I want to leave the listener with a final thought, something that wasn't explicitly laid out in our prior sections, but is deeply, profoundly connected to the core philosophy of this Podzone material.
I'm listening.
We so often think of language learning, whether it's learning a second language or just trying to improve our own native communication skills, as a word process of memorizing vocabulary just to be understood. We think that if we have the right dictionary words, we win the interaction.
And that's usually the assumption.
But this deep dive reveals a fundamental truth. True proficiency, true C1 mastery of human life isn't really about vocabulary at all. It is entirely about emotional intelligence.
It's not about the definition of the words. It's about how those specific words make the other person feel in the moment.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder how many native English speakers actually fail at the C1 masterclass level in their daily lives.
Wow. Probably a lot.
Think about how many people, born and raised speaking this language, routinely damage their friendships, alienate their colleagues, and cause themselves immense, unnecessary anxiety simply because they lack the emotional intelligence to manage these invisible social contracts.
That is wild to think about.
They might possess an incredible vocabulary, but they lack the empathy to use it correctly. They know all the words, but they are entirely deaf to the music.
That is such a striking way to look at it. It is entirely possible to have a flawless native grasp of English grammar and still be absolutely terrible at managing an emotional contract with another human being.
Unfortunately, yes.
So the next time your phone screen lights up with an invite and you feel that familiar spike of panic in your chest, take a breath.
Take a breath and use the blueprint.
Remember that you aren't just looking for the right grammatical structure, you are actively managing a relationship. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the pod zone. Go out there, send some flawless sonar pings into the water, gracefully decline the stadium gigs that give you migraines, and we will catch up with you next time.